Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel visited teleSUR's stand at the 4th edition of the International Communication Colloquium, Patria. People in Venezuela are collecting signatures in support of the more than 200 Venezuelan migrants kidnapped by the United States. And over 470 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed in the last 24 hours as the Israeli genocide against the Gaza Strip continues. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. In Havana, Cuba, the 4th edition of the International Colloquium Patria will close on Wednesday after 3 days of debates on the impact of technology in the communications field. According to organizers, 4 other presentations will complete the broad program of the event, which will conclude with a final declaration on the need for greater articulation of the counter-hegemonic media worldwide. The encounter, held at the University of Havana, discusses forms of media counter-hegemony, as well as the strategies of developing countries in the face of the information domination of the West. And Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel visited teleSUR's stand at the 4th edition of the International Communications Colloquium Patria. During his visit, Diaz-Canel spoke with the president of the multi-state platform teleSUR, Patricia Villegas, who described the journalistic work carried out by the media while reminiscing about the beginnings of the multi-platform. During the meeting, the Cuban president highlighted the relevance of the 4th edition of the International Colloquium dedicated to teleSUR's 20th anniversary and emphasized teleSUR's work in promoting peace and combating information manipulation by the hegemonic media. Moving on, people in Venezuela are collecting signatures in support of the more than 200 Venezuelan migrants kidnapped by the United States and sent to a mega prison in El Salvador. The Day of Solidarity is part of the Dignity Always campaign promoted by the Venezuelan government. In addition, Jorge Rodriguez, Venezuela's designated negotiator for the peace talks, assured that all bilateral relations and legal strategies will be used to return those repatriated to their families. In the same way, hundreds of men and women mobilized under the slogan "No to migrate is not a crime, to punish and blockade a people is," to reject the kidnapping of the migrants' relatives. And the Bolivarian government has been putting a lot of effort into returning those Venezuelan migrants illegally transferred in El Salvador as part of the U.S. immigration policy. Ahead of the great mobilization to reject the fascist U.S. policies against Latin Americans, the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro denounced the violations of human rights against migrants in the United States. In this regard, the government is currently assessing the diplomatic and logistical possibilities to guarantee Venezuelan citizens come back safely. Meanwhile, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, rejected the extremist stance on the migrants kidnapped in El Salvador. Concurrently, the senior legislator exhorted the people to join the actions to demand the dignified return of those Venezuelans in strict compliance with international law. And Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reiterated his condemnation of the kidnapping of Venezuelan migrants in El Salvador by the U.S. government.
This has no word or policy, but please count on me to guarantee all the efforts so that these boys return safely to their families. We will do everything within our reach and beyond our reach. Be certain that, at this time, when the people are in the streets expressing their indignation, expressing their truth, expressing their solidarity with these migrants and all their families, we are active at this moment so that the government of Donald Trump delivers these boys.
In the activity that designated for the peace dialogues, Jorge Rodriguez supported the popular mobilization where the Venezuelan people rejected the kidnapping of Venezuelan migrants.
This has no word or policy, but please count on me to guarantee all the efforts so that these boys return safely to their families. We will do everything within our reach and beyond our reach. Be certain that, at this time, when the people are in the streets expressing their indignation, expressing their truth, expressing their solidarity with these migrants and all their families, we are active at this moment so that the government of Donald Trump delivers these boys. This has no word or policy, but please count on me to guarantee all the efforts so that these boys return safely to their families. We will do everything within our reach and beyond our reach. Be certain that, at this time, when the people are in the streets expressing their indignation, expressing their truth, expressing their solidarity with these migrants and all their families, we are active at this moment so that the government of Donald Trump delivers these boys.
Likewise, Jorge Rodriguez denounced that the kidnapping of the Venezuelan migrants occurred while they were waiting for Venezuelan airplanes to come back to their country as they had joined the return to the homeland plan.
Past Friday, Venezuela, by executive order of President Nicolas Maduro, sent a plane to Texas to pick up the Venezuelans, men and women. We were going to recover them in the framework of the return to the homeland plan. However, the bad weather conditions prevented the aircraft from landing, so fascists took advantage of that predicament. They grabbed the boys and girls, they put them on another plane and took them to El Salvador to the Bukele concentration camp.
In other news, a U.S. judge has demanded answers from the Donald Trump administration over the unjustified deportation of dozens of migrants to prison in El Salvador. The federal authorities recalled that the deadline for the Department of Justice to provide confidential information on the law and alleged foreign enemies expires this Wednesday. The judge is asking the U.S. government for details of the flights that transported more than 250 migrants, most of them Venezuelans, accused of belonging to the extinct Tren de Aragua gang. In this sense, the judicial body considers that the Trump administration has violated the deportation order based on a law that is more than 220 years old and only apply in time of wars. We have now our first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Colombian Congress shelved labor reform proposed by Gustavo Petro's government amid popular demonstrations. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has proposed a series of reforms that seek to improve the living conditions of millions of citizens. On Tuesday morning, people from different cities rallied for supporting a project which had been obstructed by the country's Congress, as it aimed to provide fair remuneration on the mandatory workday, and it was intended to give job stability and reinforce rights for the pregnant, the sick, and those about to retire, as well as measures for eradicating violence, harassment, and discrimination at work. Despite these massive protests, Colombian Congress voted in favor of shelving the reform. And in Peru, various authority figures have condemned the government's actions regarding the implementation of a state of emergency in order to combat organized crime. Members of the Peruvian Armed Forces were deployed on Tuesday in Lima after the government had declared a state of emergency in the capital for a month. In this context, the mayor of the district of San Juan del Urigancho, Jesus Maldonado, ensured that the state of emergency does not have a strategy or a comprehensive plan to fight off delinquency and criminality. Likewise, Congressman Sigrid Bazan described the measure as a mockery to citizenship and added that President Dina Boluarte has no idea how to face crime. In In Argentina, the overflow from the Pilcomayo River flooded the region, so it triggered the collapse of houses. Right afterwards, local authorities evacuated more than 1,000 Argentines in Salta province. Authorities indicated that Santa Victoria Este and Misión La Paz localities are among the most hit in the territory. They further warned that families lost their homes and were facing difficulties in getting access to basic resources. In this regard, the National Army deployed troops and equipment to collaborate in evacuations and distribution of provisions in the area. And representatives of the Salvadoran Catholic Church and ecologist activists delivered signatures to demand that the government of Nayib Bukele repeal a law that allows mining exploitation. Demonstrators went Tuesday to the Legislative Assembly to deliver 150,000 signatures of citizens asking to repeal the general metallic mining law, approved past December. Hundreds of people gathered there to support the initiative and express themselves in defense of the commons. According to data from green organizations, mining exploitation would affect around 4 million Salvadorans out of the 6.3 million inhabitants. We have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed the progress of the armed forces in consolidating the Ukrainian defeat in Kursk Oblast. The president assured that the Russian troops had carried out a number of operations, including quick and effective raids, to achieve victory over the Kiev forces. He also said that the Ukrainian soldiers and foreign mercenaries who committed crimes against the civilian population on the territory of Russia will be considered terrorists in accordance with the legislation of the country. During an extended meeting of the General Prosecutor's Office leadership, President Putin ordered to identify, register, and investigate the atrocities committed by the Ukrainian troops. And the Russian government says the Ukrainian army's attacks on power stations in the Cuban region are a sabotage of the agreements. The Kremlin has said that the attacks on Russian energy infrastructure are considered sabotage and an attempt to disrupt the agreements reached between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump. He also noted that information about the order to suspend attacks on Ukrainian energy facilities for 30 days has already been widely disseminated. Meanwhile, the regime in Kiev has done nothing to stop the attacks, so such actions clearly contradict the joint efforts. More than 470 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed in the last 24 hours as the Israeli genocide against the Gaza Strip continues. The health authorities report that at least 564 people were injured, while more victims are trapped under the rubble, so the death toll could increase. They also detailed that the Zionist aggressions are taking place in the midst of an international rejection of the Israeli government's genocidal resumption against Palestinian civilians. The Gaza Strip is facing one of the worst humanitarian crises in its history due to the ongoing humanitarian blockade of medical and food supplies from Tel Aviv. The Venezuelan government condemned the new Israeli attacks against the Gaza Strip through a statement. The communique says the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela expresses its strongest condemnation of the new phase of criminal attacks perpetrated by the Zionist state of Israel against several localities in the Gaza Strip, which have caused the death of hundreds of people and thousands of wounded, and the ongoing destruction of homes, mosques, schools, and shelters for displaced people, especially in Han Yunis, Deir al-Balah, and Rafah. The boarding of refugee tents west of Han Yunis, leaving many civilians trapped under the rubble. The text also expresses Venezuela denounces that this merciless aggression, condemned by the United Nations and the entire world, which resumes the war in Gaza after the ceasefire that had been in effect for more than 2 months, continues to deteriorate the already existing humanitarian situation and the brutal siege against the Palestinian people. Venezuela considers that without further delay, it becomes urgent to unite our efforts focused on the search for peace, respect for life, solidarity, justice, and punishment of those responsible for these horrific genocidal massacres. Finally, the text emphasizes that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela reaffirms its commitment to solidarity with the brotherly Palestinian people and reiterates its absolute rejection of the violent actions that daily murder thousands of innocent people in the region. And the Israeli occupation expands its illegal settlements in the West Bank. The number of settlements and the annexation of the occupied West Bank by Israel has increased, and its own population has moved into the territory in violation of international law. The spokesman for the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Thamin Al-Qitan, presented a report outlining the ongoing transfer of authority over the occupied Palestinian territory from the Israeli military to the government. The report includes plans for the construction of 20,000 new housing units in the occupied West Bank.
The government of Israel has been increasing the number of settlements in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, transferring its own population into the territory and unlawfully demolishing Palestinian homes. At the same time, settler violence has increased with continued impunity. By doing that, the Israeli government is facilitating the advancement of settlements in the West Bank and the steady integration of this occupied territory into the State of Israel, the report finds. Israel's settlement policy, its acts of annexation, and related discriminatory legislation and measures are in breach of international law and violate Palestinians' right to self-determination.
And the Yemeni armed forces performed a joint military raid in which they hit several U.S. warships that had been operating in the Red Sea. The Ansarullah movement spokesperson General Yahya Sari reported that they harnessed several cruise missiles and drones. As a result, they managed to strike the USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier, among other U.S. vessels. The general detailed that it had been the fourth attack that carrier suffered in the last 72 hours. Grounded in the massive Israeli shellings on Gaza past Monday evening, Yemeni forces assured that they would escalate their aggressions towards Israeli targets until the brutal genocide against the Gaza Strip ends and the siege be lifted. And in Skopje, the capital of Northern Macedonia, thousands of people held a vigil in memory of the 59 people who died in the tragic nightclub fire last Sunday. At the tribute, people raised their mobile phones, laid flowers, and lit candles in silence. Last Sunday, 59 young people died and around 150 were injured after a discotheque in the eastern town of Kokani caught fire. Authorities are currently investigating the possible causes and numerous allegations of bribery over permits and safety regulations, while the city's mayor has resigned in the wake of the tragedy. We have come to the end of this news review. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.